Hello, my darlings. Welcome back or welcome to Marion K Tarot. If this is your first time here, I am a tarot reader of over 25 years' experience and I do these weekly readings for the general energies coming ahead. So this week we have chosen our deck from the TBR jar, and I am delighted to say that the deck that I pulled out is Tarot of the Abyss by the incredible Anna Tournian. Now I was just wondering how long, before I came on camera, how long this had been out for, because it feels like just yesterday when I first fell in love with it, but it feels like I've always had it. And looking at the back here, it's a US Games deck, so widely available wherever you buy your tarot decks. And it was actually released in 2021. So that means it's 5 years old this year. And I'm like, really? It's just been a crazy time. So, how are we all? Do let me know in the comments how you're doing. How was last week? Last week was pretty intense. I feel like I say that every week. Do you know what I mean? Because it is intense. Everything's intense. Today, as I'm filming this, I'm filming it on Friday the 13th. Which I am not superstitious about in the slightest, because it is a day to celebrate femininity, it's a day to celebrate the goddess energy that we invite into our lives if you do so. There is 13 moon cycles. It's an incredibly feminine number. And yes, it signifies the 13th trump, and tarot is death, but it's a chance to be reborn. Today we are celebrating the fact that Saturn is moving into Aries. What does that mean? When Saturn moves into Aries, Saturn doesn't like being in Aries. Okay, we're just going to get that out the way right away. Okay, Saturn does not enjoy being in Aries because Aries is quick, boisterous, dare I say argumentative, wants everything done really quickly. It's the first sign of the zodiac and it wants to go. And Saturn's a bit like, no. Just hold your horses here, Aries. Let's just calm down. And it's very much that sort of a push-pull energy, but with a slight aggressive tone to it, a certain warlike tone to it. If we think about it, so if we look at it in tarot terms, Aries is the emperor and Saturn is the world. Okay, so when you put those two together, yes, Aries, the emperor, wants to rule the world. He wants to have his empire, and likes everything to be. He's very calculating. The emperor can be very calculating about strategy, understand strategy, and in that respect we can probably say that Saturn's quite good for that, because it adds a layer of structure to the strategy. It's not to be feared. It's like every planet has got its favourite places to be, and every planet has got its places that it doesn't like to be. However, what I would say is, when a planet is traditionally in its fall, and that's what we say when Saturn goes into Aries, it's in its fall. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, it just means that things will be a bit uncomfortable. And however that plays out, but what we also need to remember is this is the start of a new 29-year cycle. Okay, because whenever a planet goes into Aries, because Aries is that first sign of the zodiac, it's starting a brand new cycle. So however long it takes for a planet to go around the entire zodiac, when it hits Aries, that's why the energy might feel a bit kind of, oh my goodness. We did get a wee snapshot of this earlier last year, what it was like, what it was potentially going to be like, but now for the next 2 years proper, Saturn is going to be in Aries and it's going to be moving through. So if you've got any planets in Aries, regardless of what one it is, check out the degree, and if you can get an ephemeris or go online and see what period of time over the next 2 years Saturn in the sky is going to match up with the placement of your planet in your birth chart, because that'll be the most intense period for that. Now some of you might find it and it'll be absolutely amazing. Okay, so it's like I have got the moon, for example, in 0 degrees Aries. Yes, hi, Aries moon here. And I'm hoping, it's like the moon is like about your feelings, about your emotions, about your femininity. And the way I'm hoping that Saturn shows up is to provide some structure to that. Also about your intuition. It's like, am I going to be able to work with Saturn to build up, not necessarily my intuition, but build up and bring structure to how I use my intuition. Hopefully or something like that. I don't know. None of us can know for sure how these things are going to work out. However, we are going to pull some cards for the week ahead and just see what we've got coming up. What kind of things we can look forward to. We're not trying to eradicate any surprises, because what would be the point, But if we can get a guide, a wee heads up, this might be happening. Okay, please excuse like the weird lighting in my face. It's like the sun is out today, and this is like the first time I have seen the sun properly in around a month in Scotland. Okay, so I couldn't bear to close my my curtains or my blinds. Okay, so just excuse my vampire like lighting. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, for the week ahead we have got. Okay. Nice. Right, okay. First card here at the bottom of the deck, we have got the Seven of Wands. Okay, that's a card of Leo. And what that feels like to me is, this week we could be very much defending our position. Okay, that just like what I was saying, with the Aries energy so prevalent right now, there could be that combative energy going on. If it could be an internal struggle, it could be a struggle with other people where they have got ideas and things that they want you to do, ideas that, or like activities they want you to pursue, and you're feeling a bit like, no, I don't want to do that. So that's what it feels like. That's like kind of a base energy, but it's like defending your position, and however that shows up for you, it's not for me to say who's right, who's wrong. But I kind of think anybody watching this is like sort of like my client, so I'm kind of going to be on your side. But if you're being a shit, then please admit to yourself that you're being a shit. You don't need to settle the aim, but admit it to yourself, right? Growth, people, right? We need to grow. So that's the energy that's coming forward for that Seven of Wands. Okay, it's also, that card is also squaring the Seven of Pentacles, which is the position where Uranus currently is in Taurus. So there's a depth to this. It could show up as kind of unexpected battles this week, right? That's where energy is at the base of the deck, so that could be like where we're coming from, or what's coming up, or where we've just moved away from, however you want to interpret it. The cards properly that what we have got is, we've got the King of Pentacles, which I love. I love this deck so much, right? So that's the King of Pentacles. Then we've got the Seven of Cups. And we've got the Three of Pentacles. Okay. Now what these cards make me feel like is, and it's interesting, we've got another 7 there, this is the Seven of Cups, so this is a card of Scorpio. So this is the last deck in a Scorpio. And it's actually Venus and Scorpio. Again, no Venus's favourite place to be, but we don't need to worry about that because Venus is currently in Pisces, okay? And she's having a lovely time in there. Okay, so the thing is with this King of Pentacles, right, it's like he's very grounding. He's a very grounding, stable influence, and I think having him show up in our cards for this week, particularly when things could start to feel unstable in the way that, well, it could be the news cycles, you know, I mean, don't even. But what the King of Pentacles does when he shows up, he creates stability. He offers grounded energy. He may not be the easiest character to deal with, but he's a card of Taurus, okay? But it's like that steady and grounded energy. You know, if you're feeling a bit frazzled, which we all do, you know, some of us more than others, it's like if you can find just to ground yourself in the earth or ground yourself with food, okay, the physical, drop into your body, you know, if you're up in your head all the time, you know, it's like go into your body, feel where you are, you know, like concentrate on your breathing, do things like, I don't know, like plant plants or plant flowers, or, you know, bake, or, you know, do something with your hands that you enjoy, that bring you peace, you know, even if it's like colouring in, you know, something that can distract your mind and you can drop into your physical self. Go a walk, you know, they kind of things, like move your body around, go for a yoga class if you're that way inclined, you know, but find something to ground yourself this week. We have got the Seven of Cups, and it is literally like the complete opposite. You know, this person has got their head in the clouds, you know, and it's like they're dreaming, and it is this card of Scorpio, you know, it's Scorpio, and it's like, is there anybody watching this who has a Scorpio? Probably, because I collect cheese, you know I do, but it feels like emotionally it's going to be a bit difficult this week, and you'd rather just keep your head in the clouds rather than facing the reality. And I think that's true for not just Scorpios, but for a lot of us, especially now that Neptune has moved in Aries, Saturn as of today has moved in Aries, and it's like things that we were led to believe is true are being dismantled in front of us, you know. And I think because the two planets were in Pisces previously, there's been like this kind of dreamlike state, this literal kind of head in the clouds. But this is a card of choices, because we've got the Seven Cups, and each of the cups represent a choice that we have got. And really, it's like, do you dare choose? Well, the thing is, it's like maybe you have been for a while, it could be as long as Saturn has been in Pisces, that you have been avoiding making a choice, but now the time is right. You know, it's like this new dawning, and there is choices that you have been avoiding, but now it's time to make them. And maybe that's where that Seven of Wands at the bottom of the deck is coming in, that energy, that conflict, because we don't always make the right choices for ourselves. We tend to make choices based on other people's opinions because we want to keep the peace. And I think that that's one of the things that's really going to show up with these planets in the Aries. It's like we are no longer going to do things just to keep the peace that are negatively impacting on ourselves. And I think the more we realise that, eventually the more authentic everybody will be. And the people who choose not to, then they're going to be forced to, because that's just the nature of Saturn. You know, it's like you can work with the energy or you can ignore the energy, but regardless, it's going to happen. So it's better to be open to the changes. Okay, my loves. And then we've got the Three of Pentacles. So the Three of Pentacles is about having that collaboration with people, you know, there's three hands on that rope pulling it, you know, and so that would lead me to indicate there is at least one other person there. You know, it could be three people, you know, all with one hand pulling this on this rope. It could be three friends who are pulling you back, or it could be a person who's pulling you back if you're wanting to go making decisions and they're not happy about it, because when we change it makes other people feel uncomfortable, and I've spoken extensively, I feel like, about that, and I don't know, I'm kind of toying with the idea of doing like a whole video on that whole concept, you know, where when you make changes and when you start to grow, it makes the people who are currently around you uncomfortable because they're used to the version of you that they know, and with you changing, it makes them question what they're doing with their life. Not all the time, you know. I mean, it's like it's a really good experience for you to work out who's really in your corner. You know, I mean, I was watching something today, and it was like talking about the people who cheer for you in your face but stab you in the back in secret. You know, it's a whole thing. So just going forward with that, you know, and it could be completely different, and it could be, you know what, there is some stuff going on in your life right now that you need to ask for help. Okay. It's like you've done as much as you possibly can on your own, but you need to ask for help. Fixed signs, I'm looking at you. Fellow Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, I'm looking at yous, okay? We need to ask for help, apparently, right? And it's a good thing, because no everybody's out to get you, right? There is good people, and if you can open yourself up to that and surround yourself with good people, even just one person can make a difference. And I know it's really hard, and I know it's really difficult, but trust yourself. Okay, my loves, so that's the energies that we have got going on this week coming. But yeah, interesting. It's not the worst week. I don't think it's the worst week we've ever had, isn't it? No, we never had anything terribly scary. So what I'll do is I'll pull a card for the Grief Journey Oracle. As always, thank you so much for your support with the deck, for your orders coming in. It's amazing. People are keeping me and Terry very busy. And yes, it's great. I'll probably do, one of the things I want to do is film a walkthrough, like a proper walkthrough of the cards. I know that you can see that in other people's decks and other people's channels, sorry, but I thought, well, I'm the creator, so I really should do one. So yeah, so let's pull a card for this week. Okay, so interesting. So Gravis. So this is what Terry and I call one of the more fantasy cards in the deck, and it's a whale, it's a humpback whale, and there is a city on the back of the whale, and it's Gravis. And the concept behind this deck was that this card was the feeling of heaviness that can feel physically heavy when you go through a period of loss. And it's that kind of a linguistic opposites. You know, you've lost something, but you're gaining this heaviness. You know, you gain this kind of this weight in your shoulders, and that's really what the idea behind this was. So I think that this week, you know, things might start to feel heavy. You know, with Saturn moving into Aries. I don't know how many times I've said that in this video, my apologies. But you know, things just might still feel heavy. You know, we're still settling in the Northern Hemisphere. We're still in winter. You know, we're inching towards spring. We're inching towards that changey season. But you know, we're still in the dark half of the year, and we are on the upwards climb towards spring. You know, but give yourself peace. Give yourself acknowledgement that things have been hard. It feels like it's been a really long winter. So acknowledge that for yourself and realise that things have not always been easy, and just take a minute to sit down, take a minute to rest, because everything is a bit crazy right now, but it is a dismantling, and the dismantling will not last forever. Okay, it's like the wheel. We will keep turning. Okay, my loves, if you have stayed to the very end, thank you so much. I deeply appreciate every single one of you who watches these videos. I do them for you guys. I absolutely love to do it. As always, if you would like to book a personal reading with me, the details will be in the description box. If you want to buy your own copy of the Grief Journey Oracle, again, will be in the description box. And have a good week, and I will see you next time, okay?